This episode of Rollin with Ray is sponsored by the Texas Boot Company, located in Bastrop, Texas, nationally renowned for hundreds of unique styles of exclusive boots, handmade by some of the best boot makers in Texas. Head-to-toe outfitters, whether you're all cowboy or just from the shins down, check them out and enjoy free shipping nationwide. Visit www.texasbootcompany.com for more information. This episode of Rollin with Ray is sponsored by the Grossman Burn Foundation. The Grossman Burn Foundation provides medical, financial, and emotional support to families who have suffered a burn injury, and they aid in the development of a self-sustainable communities worldwide through public education, strategic partnerships, and teamwork. For more information, go to www.grossmanburnfoundation.org or email inquiries to info@grossmanburnfoundation.org, or you can call 866-411-4423 for more information. In this episode of Rollin with Ray, you will meet Marc Conselman. Marc is owner of the Texas Boot Company in Bastrop, Texas. Marc is a West Point graduate and served the country in the U.S. Army as a captain. He has an MBA from Southern Methodist University. He is married to his wife, Shelly, and they have two beautiful daughters. While starting his own boot company, he would tell us his story of how he overcame his adversities and challenges. It's my honor and privilege to introduce you to Marc Conselman, owner of the Texas Boot Company. Well, Marc, thank you so much for being on my podcast called Rollin with Ray, and I appreciate you driving in all the way from Bastrop, Texas.
I'm so glad to be here, Ray. It's just really nice to join you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. So the first question I have is, first of all, I didn't realize you were a West Point graduate and that you had served our country in the United States Army, and you became a captain. Can you talk a little bit about your experience about that?
It was such a privilege and a big honor, and I loved it. It was definitely challenging. West Point was just by design it's challenging, but I met a lot of great people from all over the country, and I had some really great experiences. And then I loved my Army time. I was lucky. I served in the sweet spot between wars. But I got to go down to Panama for 5 weeks, 2 6-week rotations in the Mojave Desert. There was always challenges, and you just were a part of a team and just totally committed, and it was fun. I enjoyed it.
That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. So first of all, I want to let our viewers and listeners know that you and I met probably about 35 years ago. Marc was 10 years old, and I was a kid coming out of, or still going to college, and I would coach our summer track programs for the city of Irving. And Marc happened to be in one of our programs, and it was, like I said, the summer track program, and it ran Monday through Friday from 8 o'clock in the morning during the summer. And of course, we'd have our track meets on Saturdays. First of all, I know how demanding I probably was, and how, for a kid for 9 years old, you would think that you would be able to sleep in during the summers. But I'm thankful for your mom and dad for bringing you to practice every morning, and you and your siblings. So I really appreciate that.
Well, it was a lot of fun. It was a great memory. You mean a lot to our family. I actually had flashbacks this morning. My mom made me breakfast. I slept at my parents' house, last night, and oh gosh, I hope I'm not late for Ray. I might have to run or. But.
No, well, I appreciate you. Those were good times and good memories.
They really were.
Remember that.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about? You started a company called the Texas Boot Company in Bastrop, Texas. How stressful and how demanding it was that first starting out? Because I believe it's 12 years now.
Yeah, we're on our 13th year. It was, and that's, it's the American dream to be able to take something and run with it. But I started at a time when I was kind of boxed in. I didn't have 2008 had just happened. I didn't have a whole lot of corporate experience, and I was struggling to fit in. And finally, I said, look, if I'm going to, if something's going to happen, I might just have to take the ball in my hands and make it happen. And so that's how I started. And we were, I didn't have, wasn't the perfect, day one of retail for me was day one of opening.
Wow.
So it was very stressful, and it was kind of a, swim or sink or swim.
Right,
But it's been fun too.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
So I always tell people, when you're starting something new, it's kind of like that fear of the unknown. And I'm sure that it's very stressful, and I know it's probably, there'll be days that I'm sure you had your ups and you had your lows. And did you ever go through any type of depression or anything like that, or anxiety?
So, I did. Anxiety during definitely at different points, and there's a lot of self-doubt that, are we going to make it? Are we on the right path? And but I actually went through depression before I started, and for me, I really enjoyed my time in the military. The transition to the corporate world was a challenge, and in the military, respect and competence are kind of the currency of the realm, and I had a great experience there, and I did really well. But when you transition from that, you're starting over, and you're folks that are younger than you have they have more relevant experience to the task. And it was a learning and humbling experience for me. Culturally, it's a transition, and that 2008 hit, and from during that recession, I was laid off 3 times.
Wow!
And so that was a reckoning. That was not where I was. It was really, really tough to find some traction, and
so you had some dark days ahead of you. And
yeah,
did you ever seek help or medical attention? Or
I did, and that was probably the hardest day of my life, of realizing that this was a problem that I could not solve on my own. Mm-hmm. And if you're coming from the military, you're supposed to be strong. Mm-hmm. And culturally, we're just now coming to an awareness that emotional well-being is part of your total health, your total well-being, and that you need to take care of that too. But that was a tough day, and I did, and I'm very thankful that I did, because that was a difference maker. Mm-hmm.
So somebody who's going through some tough times right now, what suggestions or what advice would you give them that they're going through right now?
First of all, know that this isn't something that is is a sign of weakness. It just is, and I would encourage them first to seek help, and not be too proud to seek help, not be afraid to seek help, and realize hey, you can, and life is great, and there are peaks and valleys, but whatever valley you're in, hey, there's a great road ahead.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
You talk about stress and the uncertainty. I realize those are parts of life. And can you tell me how you manage stress today?
Work in progress, and it's intentional to realize and be aware. And I think that's the first step, is to be aware that you've got, that you've got to manage it. Exercise is key. For me, journaling is something that really helps. Everybody's personality is different. By nature, I'm very reflective, and that helps me kind of just realize that the mountains that are in front of me aren't impossible, and that they may not even be that important compared to what really, really matters.
So, Marc, what would you tell a person who's out there listening and watching my podcast about starting their own business, and what advice would you give them? And what, I know you talked about the stress, how stressful it is, but, or somebody that's in an organization that's not happy with where they're at and they want to do something else, like starting their own business. What advice would you give them?
I would, one of the things, Ray, that I learned in the Army is that everything takes longer than you think. And some of the lessons that I learned, the ability to gain competence in a task, and how critical and important that is. Just because you were successful in one area, you still have to pay your dues as you're transitioning to another. And slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so rushing to try to get, just because you have ambition, I would say to be patient with yourself, and if you have a dream, follow it. I think following back on slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Everybody knows when the right time is to make that jump. Sometimes you can plan it to death and you'll never get there. But I would, the advice, know what you're getting into, have a plan, be humble enough to seek advice. Is if you don't have that button down, you're going to be going back to seek advice. You're just going to be going back from a position of having a challenge right in front of you, rather than having a challenge that is a little bit further off with a little bit more space to think. So be very deliberate, but then when you go, you got to be all in, and there will be a time that you're wondering, what in the world did I get myself into?
Sure.
The final advice is you can't do it all by yourself. There's power in teams and harnessing other opinions. When
I was the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Irving, I managed a $20 million budget. I had over 379 employees, and we ran 5 different divisions. And the one thing that I could tell people is that always surround yourself with good people around you. If you surround yourself with good people around you, good things are going to happen. And I'm sure that's probably what you do with your boot company, is you've got to have some good people around you.
We've been extremely blessed with some really good people, and they've grown with us through the years. And they're just, if I tried to do it all on my own, it wouldn't be much fun. And I have fun with that team. But that's another lesson I learned from the Army. It's just how powerful teams are, and that sometimes the folks that are the newest can give have a perspective that really just kind of moves the ball forward.
Right. So Marc, when I first got hurt, 42 plus years ago, I went through some severe uncertainty, because I didn't know what my life was going to be like, and so I had to depend on my faith to get me through my journey. How has your faith gotten you through the journey that with the starting of the new boot company?
It's you have to have something bigger than yourself to center yourself, and it's grounding. I there's one other thing that I think you need to be successful, is humility, and the realization that, hey, selling boots is fun and I can provide for my family, but it doesn't really matter how big we grow, right? It doesn't. That's fun, but there's actually something much greater, much bigger, and more important that will humble you pretty quick. I also have a wife that can humble me too, and she'll even say, I'll share some, hey, we did this, and she said, that's great. What can I do to humble you today?
Well, and I'm sure you have 2 daughters, and I'm sure those 2 daughters will humble you all day long.
Yeah, they don't really care. They just want your time.
Sure.
So success is that's great, but hey, let's watch Bubble Guppies.
Sure, absolutely. Marc, what would you say today is the most important thing in your life, and how do you measure success?
That's a great question, Ray. I think ultimately, going back to my faith, I think that will be there will be a day when that will be measured for me. And ultimately, have I made the world a better place for those around me? Have I encouraged those? That's one of the things I'm very grateful for, the opportunity to share. Hey, depression happens. Most people will have somebody in their family. Mine was diagnosed as moderate depression. It didn't seem very moderate to me at the time, but if I can be of encouragement to somebody else, if I can teach my daughters and raise them to believe that they're capable, they're competent, and that God loves them and wants them to do well, at the end of the day, that would have been a good life.
Absolutely. Amen.
Yeah.
How do you recharge yourself?
I really, really enjoy what I do, and so it's fun for me, and I'm probably not the best at knowing, hey, when is it time to kind of stop and do a little self-maintenance and recharge. But it is critical. It is important. I like history. I like to read. I like fishing. I love nature. I take my daughter on hikes. But absolutely critical. When you go on an airplane, they'll say, "Hey, put your mask on first." And then, if you are not taking care of yourself, how can you really lead others? How can you?
Sure.
Yeah.
You got to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before you can take care of others. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the pitfalls that someone needs to look out for? Especially if they're going through some difficult times, or you're moving along and then you hit a snag. What are some of the pitfalls somebody should look for?
Relationships and are you what's your mood, and what is your if somebody is having a challenge, and they're maybe they're externalizing, there are a lot of different signs. For me, my wife had gone through depression as a side effect to she has MS, and as a side effect to that, to a drug that she was taking, she had gone through. So she was able to recognize some of those signs. For me, we were watching a movie, and I got emotional during a movie that I normally wouldn't. And she just, hey, it may be time to talk to somebody, and it may be, this is probably a sign. her awareness and her patience were just critical.
Right.
And that, that was absolutely critical for me.
How does your experience serve as a guide for your journey today?
If you remember back to my track days, I was always very driven. My older brother, good guy, less driven. He was more the one trying to negotiate with you on how many laps we had to run. But being very driven, you can sometimes, and especially the Army culture, empathy was not a value during my day in the Army. Bluntness was a value, right? Hey, let's be direct and but empathy, not so much. Having gone through a challenge, it has increased my awareness. I'm certainly not perfect, and it is a continual, work in progress to, be awareness. But it absolutely opened up my empathy that, hey, look, we're all trying to do our best, get through this, and to be aware that, other people have challenges and struggles too.
Sure, absolutely. I remember when I used to work for the city of Irving, I always had an open door policy. So if any of my employees or direct reports were having problems, I always told them, my door's open, come in, talk to me. And you'll be amazed of some of the just by them coming in and talking helps them.
You bring up that one of the ways I recharge is I just have a network of folks that I will call regularly. Some of them hey, once a month I'll reach out. Some of them are old friends that live, throughout different cities in America, and but just that connection is helpful, and that is something that I recharge. But it it feels good to know that, hey, I can encourage them too, just as well as they encourage me.
Sure, absolutely. So where do you see the Texas Boot Company here in 10 years from now?
We're having a lot of fun. We're building our team, and we're starting to produce our own leaders. And we really enjoy designing boots. So can I show you the pair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What do you got there?
This is a pair that we designed, and they're handmade out in El Paso.
Oh, wow.
And this is
nice boots.
Yeah, and this for you, these are ostrich, and they're made in El Paso with just the old school way of doing things.
Can you show the viewers the front, the back of the boots?
So what we'll do here is we'll put a zipper all the way down, right? And that'll be real easy for you to get into.
Right. Well, that's nice of you to do that. So I'm excited about it and looking forward to wearing. I haven't worn cowboy boots in 30, 40 plus years. And so I'm just tickled to death about that. Very, very humbled about that, Marc, and I appreciate you doing that.
It's a great honor. We have a lot of fun with we design boots. We design them from all different types of leathers. We even this year there's a boot made of beaver tail leather.
Wow!
And it's fun, to showcase. But in the best boots are still made in the most primitive fashion, by hand in a very painstaking way. And when customers come in and we share that story, we see their smile and their appreciation for all the pride and hard work. But we have a lot of fun with that. But I think the thing that I'm having the most fun is with our team and growing our team, developing confidence with watching young leaders do things and have fun with. We're very active on social media. I don't do those videos, but our team does, and they're doing a great job, and I'm having fun with that.
Do you see yourself opening up another store And if so, where, in what area, or is that still?
Yeah, that's the
in the
dream.
making?
The dream, we will grow into our name, and just building the team to be able to accomplish that. And so we're, that is a humbling process as we transition from intuition and sheer effort into kind of a data-driven organization. And as we grow, to keep those aspects of our culture
Sure.
that are key, and make sure that, hey, we don't outgrow those.
Marc, if somebody's, like I think I mentioned earlier, going through depression or some stress and anxiety, is there like a place or somebody they can contact, or that maybe somebody that's listening or watching that we can help them out?
I think the first thing is you talk to your doctor, and you, and that's your first step. And they, knowing that there are things that can be done, and knowing that, hey, that's sometimes it's just how folks are wired. Sometimes there's an event, but get help, because it is there, and
Right.
and you don't have to be ashamed. You don't have to be afraid. It's there, and go get it, and go live a great
Absolutely.
life. Yeah.
Because you can overcome, and it's just if you just concentrate and worry about the things that you need to worry about, and move on, you can overcome anything.
That's right. And so that's the first step is, if you need help, get help. If you
Sure.
think you might, hey, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Sure, absolutely. And don't be ashamed about it.
No. Because we all need help. Nobody
Sure.
can, we all need, and there are, I go back, there are power in teams. Nobody can do it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Marc, your Texas Boot Company is in Bastrop, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell our viewers, our listeners, about your store? What all you produce in there and sell? And I know y'all just do more than boots. So, can you talk a little bit about the store?
Everything that I'm wearing, with the exception of my glasses, comes from the store. We're about 20,000 square feet, and we've grown through the years. Somewhere between 15 to 20,000 pairs of boots. Most of our exotic boots we design in-house, and but we just have a great time. We're whether you're full-on cowboy, we've got boots that are made for the ranch, or kind of like I am, just from the shins down.
Right.
That's so. And I like your cowboy hat. We sell.
Well,
cowboy
yes,
hats.
absolutely, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because that was my next thing, is to let our viewers know that my cowboy hat has been gifted from the Texas Boot Company, and I appreciate that. It's a cowboy hat from Greeley.
Greeley Hat Works, and that's a great story. That's a small business, but they make handmade hats, and American made. Great team. I really enjoy it. I get to work with a lot of really neat people that different boot companies, hat companies, and it's fun. But deep down, everybody at one time, at one point in their life, whether it was 4 or wanted to be a cowboy,
Sure,
right? And we get
absolutely.
to help them kind of live
That's
that.
awesome,
Yeah, so
especially in Texas.
that's right.
So, well, Marc, I appreciate you being on my podcast. I know we're close to out of time, and thank you for coming on. And I appreciated the boots and my cowboy hat, and I also have a cap that like you're wearing. So, is there anything else you would like to say or talk about?
No, I really enjoyed your book, and I had thought, no Ray's story. I laughed in the book. There are a lot of things. It just really made me, was very, very inspirational. And, I know before this podcast that we said, hey, we're both serious type of guys. It's going to be a challenge for us to create some levity. There were there were some moments in your book that just made me smile and like, man, it was inspiring. But that's what I would say is if you haven't read Ray's book, read it because I've enjoyed it.
I appreciate that, Mark. And you got to have a sense of humor.
That's right.
And you know what? No matter how bad things are dealt, the sun's still going to come out tomorrow, and it's all about overcoming. I always tell people that weather the storm. Once you weather the storm, start picking yourself up. Once you pick yourself up, then concentrate on getting through the things that you're overcoming, and then surround yourself with good and loving people. Which, if I didn't have my family support and good friends who cared about me, there's no way I would have been able to do the things that I did.
Ray, one of the things I would tell to cap it off is enjoy the journey, because the goals that you set, if you're going to accomplish them at some point, and you're going to set new ones, and the actual accomplishment of a goal, you're going to realize, that mountain, what you remember is the journey and the relationships along the way. If you can feed your family and you can, you can contribute to society, you're good. But
Absolutely.
Enjoy the journey, because you only get one journey.
That's exactly right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on here, and it's been a pleasure having you being on my show.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for watching and listening to my podcast. I want to thank the Grossman Burn Foundation and the Texas Boot Company for sponsoring this episode. Make sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and on my YouTube channel called Rollin with Ray. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Should you be looking for a good book, please pick up my book called The Life I Didn't Expect, Facing Adversity and Winning. Until I see you again, keep rolling with Ray. This episode of Rollin with Ray is sponsored by the Texas Boot Company, located in Bastrop, Texas, nationally renowned for hundreds of unique styles of exclusive boots, handmade by some of the best boot makers in Texas. Head-to-toe outfitters, whether you're all cowboy or just from the shins down, check them out and enjoy free shipping nationwide. Visit www.texasbootcompany.com for more information. This episode of Rollin with Ray is sponsored by the Grossman Burn Foundation. The Grossman Burn Foundation provides medical, financial, and emotional support to families who have suffered a burn injury, and they aid in the development of a self-sustainable communities worldwide through public education, strategic partnerships, and teamwork. For more information, go to www.grossmanburnfoundation.org or email inquiries to info@grossmanburnfoundation.org. Or you can call 866-411-4423 for more information.